workshop, Loving Life Fearlessly. We cannot believe that our workshop series is already coming to a close, but we want to thank everyone for tuning in each of the weeks, and we're so excited to share the final part of the series with you guys. Today, we have a few of our friends here to discuss their experiences of loving life fearlessly, so please say hi to Arlisha, Daria, and Na. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
We really want to thank you guys, like we said again. And now that we've gotten a chance to kind of talk about living and loving without fear, this workshop specifically is going to kind of combine everything together so that you can work towards creating a more abundant life. So we'll talk about how to connect the two fearless components and how they can be integrated into your relationships and in real life, in the situations that you kind of encounter on a day-to-day. So don't forget, there's still this week's workbook component that has exercises, meditations, and mantras for you to do. If you wrote the letter to yourself last week, you get a chance to open it and read it. And I know that I've done that before, and that's like something that's really powerful, literal tears. So we hope that you guys all get a chance to kind of experience that and reflect on the series as a whole.
All right, so hi everyone. I cannot believe that this is our last workshop, but I'm really excited to see what happens after this and just to share with you guys my final tips and just basically what I've learned throughout this whole experience. So by this point in the series, all of us should know that it's fine, it's perfectly okay for us to have fears. And once you realize that you have fears, it becomes easier to approach them and to confront them head on instead of just pushing them to the side and acting like they don't exist. So, brushing off and outgrowing your fears will come easier when you place yourself in uncomfortable situations, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. Once you do this, you can adapt to whatever your fears are. So I am well aware of my fears at this point. This workshop has helped me realize that. And this is why I had the capability of writing them down, sharing them with you guys, and at the beginning of this process. So realizing your fears is just the first step towards embracing yourself, embracing who you really are underneath all of the fear and just whatever you're scared of. And once you take off each of these layers, you'll begin to find your true self. And if you focus your attention on what holds you back, it'll make it a lot easier to move forward. So once you realize and bring yourself to the attention of your own fears, then you have to question, why am I afraid of these things? What's holding me back? So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's important to dig deeper in order to like make an actual change within yourself that actually matters and is significant. So once you find this answer, these reasons why you might be afraid of certain things, you can confront these reasons head on instead of just pushing it to the side, like I said. So I'll start with an example from my list of fears that I shared with you guys in the first workshop. And the first thing on this list happened to be snakes. And even though it's one of my surface fears, it's still something that gets me from time to time and stops me from doing certain things like camping or going on hikes in the woods. That's not really my thing yet. I'm still learning. But I've already accomplished the first step, which is realizing that I'm afraid of snakes. So once I realize that I'm afraid of them, I ask myself, why? And some of the things that I come up with are that they're slithery. I don't enjoy things that slither normally. They're intimidating, and they can kill you with their poison if you're not careful. So I picked the scariest thing among these three reasons, and that's death. And this fear relates to my deeper fear. So we're not on the surface anymore. We're actually in a more meaningful type fear, and that's my fear of dying young. And we might not realize it at first, but all of our fears are interconnected. So after we let go of one, we can let go of the others. So ultimately, I dig deeper into myself and ask why I'm afraid of dying young. And this goes back to another fear of mine of selling myself short. And not only selling myself short in my work and my ability to create things that I know I'm capable of, but also in my relationships and some of my long-term goals. So since I'm afraid that I won't accomplish everything and see everything that I want to see in life and check things off my bucket list, I become afraid that I'm not going to be able to do everything that I want to in life. So to eliminate this bigger fear and your bigger fears in general, I push myself. I push myself to the furthest extent while still doing things that I love to do and while still being myself. So no matter how uncomfortable it is, I tell myself, it's okay. Like, I know it might sound a little harsh and gore, but like, not to tell yourself that it's okay to die, but just be content in the moment and just be content with yourself and life and everything in it. And that fear of dying will just go away. So basically, in order to forget my fear of being without life, I live my life loving others, loving myself, and I do all of this without any fear. And everything comes back to self. It's my decision if I let my fears affect me or not. And I can either choose to love all things that I once thought were negative, or I can hold on to them and let them grow into something worse, which is not what we want. So throughout this entire experience, I've definitely chosen to let my fears go. And every time I catch myself being afraid of something, I say, no, 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 it's okay. And I just remember that I'm fine in the moment, and I make it easier on myself and to everyone around me that I hold close. So this is how I love my life fearlessly.
That's awesome, Lila. I have had similar realizations, but I am going to go over 3 things that loving and living fearlessly have taught me. The first is to appreciate the life that I have. Number 2 is that no experience is wasted. And number 3, love yourself first and everything else will fall in line. So number 1, appreciate the life that I have. Sometimes my Taurusness takes over and I want like luxurious things. I want a new handbag, I want a new car, I want this perfume, and I get caught up in wanting things, and so the wanting creates the guilt of wanting. It's like, okay, you shouldn't want these things. That's being materialistic, and so it becomes a cycle of wanting. It becomes a cycle of guilt, and we already know that the guilt cycle is a dangerous one. So this experience has taught me to first of all say it's okay that you want these things, but what you have to do is find the balance. There's nothing wrong with striving towards having nice things or striving towards creating a life for yourself. It's just that you have to appreciate the life that you do have and appreciate the things that you do have. So every day to consciously to be appreciative, I say thank you to God for my family, my fiance, my health, my friends, and the wonderful career that I get to have. So that brings me back to consciousness, and I say, okay, you know what? I appreciate these things. I can move forward. I can, live minute by minute on this journey of choosing to be fearless and choosing to appreciate my life. Number 2 is no experience is wasted. I'm learning that more and more, like my past experiences they prepared me for where I'm at today, and even my experiences now, they're preparing me for my future. And so I constantly see the connections, from my childhood, from being a teenager, from college. I see the connections as to, okay, you know what? Wow, that really helped me to get to where I am now. Like I said, I was a military kid, and I've lived all over. And if I don't know if many of you know this, but I now live in Indiana with my fiance, and we don't have any. So I feel like that experience of moving all over has prepared me for, to be without my family now. That's just a small example. But also too, it's just that the universe, what you ask the universe for, what you ask God for, what you want in life, it will come to you. But it'll come to you in a way that you might not think. A great example is if you ask for patience, like, okay, Lord, today give me patience. Okay, what you get is patience, but you'll get a line in the bank, or you'll be stuck in traffic. Okay, this is how you learn to be patient. You have to be in an experience that teaches you the patience in order for you to get that, in order for you to learn that. So that even though the experiences that you may have might be challenging, they're still teaching you. They're spiritual experiences. They're teaching you, and they're giving you the tools that you need for your future. So I'm very grateful. Finally, I can say I'm very grateful for all of my experiences that I've had, good and bad, to get me to this moment. The last one is to love yourself first, and everything else will fall in line. I've learned that, from the last workshop, that loving yourself allows you to take care of others. It allows you to give. It allows you to serve others. It allows you to work. It allows you to do everything. And so if you're not full, if you're not fulfilling your own needs, you can't give to other people. And that's a pretty hard lesson to learn. For a really long time, I, felt very drained. I would be sick all the time. I would be in a depressed mood all the time, and I didn't really know why. And I wasn't feeding my own spirit. I wasn't feeding my own soul with the things that I need to do for myself. It was like I was literally running on fumes. I didn't have what I needed to go throughout my day. So after it did take me a while to realize, like, obviously this is a slow journey and this is a slow process. So it took me a while to find what serves me, and to find what fills me up, and to find what actually loving me looks like. And we went over those things last week, is whether it's a healthy snack versus fast food, or giving yourself more time in the morning, prayer daily, meditation daily, just realizing that, it's that choosing those simple things can help you along your way. And like Lila said, ultimately we can look for these things, these external things, to help us. We can look for, self-help books, this workshop, meditations to help us, but it really has to do with you and the choices that you make. It's an internal journey. It's an internal battle that you have to live every single moment. So once you realize that, a shift will happen, and nothing can be against you. You're working with the universe to create the life that you want. So just as long as I remember, and you guys remember, that we all have the power to create this amazing life with no limits and no fears, you will be in the flow. You will be where you need to be. And so do the work. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. I can attest to that. But do the work, and it'll definitely be worth it.
Yes, yes, yes. All of these things are definitely interconnected. And as you can see, we've all kind of taken this walk to kind of getting to where we are, digging deeper within ourselves and realizing, yes, those signs are there for you, those lessons are there for you, but ultimately you really do have to put in the inner work. And like Alyssa said, it starts with kind of realizing, okay, well, who am I, and kind of where do I see myself, where do I want to be? And for me, I'm a very scary person. If you know me, like I can be a very scary. I worry about a lot of things. I'm a worrier, partly probably because I am a perfectionist to some extent. But I've learned to like kind of let that go, and I'm still learning to let that go every single day. And really, it started from, like we said, the two things are connected. Learning how to let go of fear and learning how to love yourself. It started from me letting go of my fear of death, my fear of rejection, which had a lot to do with me learning how to love myself, and my fear of failure. Just realizing and accepting myself for who I am at that moment. And that for me has really allowed for me to live my life really dedicated to loving fearlessly, like loving without any attachment, and loving without expectation. So not expecting anything as a result of me giving that love or being loved, and really just becoming aware of who I am, like I've made room for that empathy and compassion, for myself and especially for other people. Because once I realized, okay, um, it's okay, every things happen. I could begin to relate to other people and what they might be going through, even if I really didn't know what was going on. I started to be less judgmental of myself, and as a result, I was less judgmental towards other people. So this really represented for me like this idea towards the being accepting and giving myself permission to live life and just love without any type of fear. And there really is a balance when it comes to learning how to love fearlessly. And I realized that I had the option, because I let go of like this fear. I began to take more risks for myself, and not just like go crazy and be like, oh, I'm gonna try something like totally off the wall. But like Lila said, I began to put myself in these situations that normally would make me feel uncomfortable. And sometimes it's good to heed your instincts, but sometimes you really do have to put yourself out there when it comes to kind of learning what it means to grow, right? And sometimes that's going to be an uncomfortable feeling because we've learned that being comfortable sometimes is not where the growth happens, right? So I had to learn how to have respect and love without judgment. That was a really big one. And just letting go of expectation and being in the moment. So letting go of outcome. Like I said, I have a fear. I had a fear of failure, a really big fear of failure, a really big fear of rejection, and death, and all of that kind of had to do with future. I wasn't focused on the now, on what was going on in the moment. So I had to let go of outcome and what could happen or what would happen or what I thought should happen, and just kind of let it all be in the moment. So that was a really big one, being present, so that I could be grateful for what I have, because I'm so busy thinking about, well, what's going to happen, or how is this going to work out, and not even living my life and enjoying what I have and being grateful for what I had, like Alyssa said, right now. Really, that's when everything does begin to fall in place. When you can say, okay, you know what? I'm pretty awesome now. Like right now in this moment, I'm learning. There's no pressure. And yes, we do have instances where we have to perform, but I think of the moments where I put more stress on myself unnecessarily, where I could have just let it go and been like, you know what, it is what it is. And that's really how I have to look at it, because being in the PhD program, there's a lot of pressure to perform and to be perfect. And I realize at the same time, though, I'm here to learn, so that I can teach. And in order to learn, I have to just take it day by day for what it is, right? So I realized that if I come from a place of love and did what felt right for me on a day-to-day, this led to like an acceptance for myself, And really, it also led to me not reacting to what other people thought. Like me being myself no matter what. As long as I'm doing it from a loving place, I'm not lashing out in fear. I'm not lashing out from a negative place, and I'm just kind of being who I am. Um, that in and of itself is something that I had to learn to be unapologetic about. So how did I begin to tell the difference between like reacting out of fear and kind of pushing through it? It was really taking a look closely at these experiences where I saw the lack of love. So when I was acting out of fear, I had to catch myself and say, okay, Lindsay, you're saying that because you're feeling some type of way. And not being judgmental about how I felt, but just realizing, okay, look where you're going, look what's happening, pay attention. Um, and that is kind of how it led me to moving towards acting out of love and just really being secure in myself, loving myself so that I could really start to love others. To me, what it means to love fearlessly, um, love is unconditional. So like I said, there's no expectations, there's no attachments. I give you something, I don't expect it in return. Why? Because I'm already full. I have what I need. I'm coming from the place that, I don't expect anything from you. And imagine like what that's to me, when I get it right and I'm there, it's the greatest feeling ever. So it expects nothing. Love honors the self in you and the self in others. So you see others where they are in that moment and you love them for them. You don't put any attachments or expectations on how they should be or how they should behave, because we do this because we do it to ourselves. We do it to other people because we do it to ourselves. Or, we tell ourselves, well, I'm supposed to be doing this, or, I'm supposed to be behaving in this way, or, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And so it's easy for us to turn around and say, oh, well, this person shouldn't have done this, or this person shouldn't have done this. Not to say that you take mistreatment from anyone, but you just realize that when you do speak out against something, you come from a firm and a loving place, knowing that you're secure in who you are. And love is also very vulnerable, and it's courageous. I feel like in order to love without any expectations, you do have to be a little bit vulnerable in a sense, because you're putting yourself out there without expecting anything in return. Love is not concerned with the outcome because, like I said, you're being fulfilled from moment to moment. Like you're not looking towards the future. You're here now, and that's really what allowed me to let go of my fear of death too, because it's like, you know what, I'm here and I'm living right now. A fearless lover to me is fulfilled and overflowing and wants for nothing because they have everything. You are content with who you are. I am content with who I am. And sometimes I have to remind myself when I get frazzled, like I was just saying, talking to the ladies earlier, I have a paper, a proposal due, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm learning. Don't worry about what's to come. In the moment, I'm taking in the information and I'm learning, and I'm grateful for where I'm at right then and there. So how do I feel like I took the steps towards loving fearlessly, and what can I offer you guys? I want to say that I realize that we're all here now trying to work through every moment. Be compassionate and empathetic to that. If somebody lashes out to you in fear, realize that they're doing the best that they can. And sometimes it sucks. We're human and we react sometimes and we're like, well, why would they do that? Just know that they're doing the best that they can. And that's what their best looks like. And you just go from there. That doesn't mean you have to be around that individual, but you just come from a place of, okay, well, I accept you for who you are. I'm going to keep moving in my direction. And you just love them for who they are. Accept yourself as you are with no judgment and express yourself for you. So be as weird as you want to be. As long as you're not hurting anybody, like I'm a true believer in being yourself. Don't feel like you have to be anything other than what you feel like in a given moment. And I think this probably comes from, just like I said, learning that I was a weirdo. I'm left-handed. I wear glasses, so I'm just like, walking freak of the week, but it's okay. Like, I realize, like, that's okay, and I wave my freak flag very high, and I'm okay with that. Um, Learn through your own experience so that you can begin to teach through them as well. So I'm the type of person, like, and this is, we all are really, we've learned that we can only give advice for things that we've learned. Like, we're coming from a place of like, well, I've gone through this, so let me tell you how I dealt with it when I went through it, and realize that other people's paths are not, may not be the same or similar to yours, but you can offer them something to kind of maybe give them a little bit of growth as well. And know that in that same instant, though, you're growing too. You're getting something from them, even though you're not expecting it. You're learning a lot of times when you're teaching. That's really how it is. Make everything in your life an opportunity to learn and grow. And that goes back to this idea of accepting yourself for who you are. Like, everything is, like Alyssa said, nothing is wasted, right? And no one can chip away at you and who you've accepted yourself to be if you just take it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Like, no one can, if you know, a surface example is if you give a presentation and it sucks, you think, because you get this feedback from people and they're just ripping it apart. It's like, well, hey, it is what it is. You know, it happens. You take it and you learn and you grow from it, and that can't chip away from who you are and who who you're meant to be. Take risks and don't be afraid to trust your gut. Like, I'm a very big proponent of intuition and just making sure things feel right. And not necessarily getting caught up in this idea of, like, because it's like I said, it's a balance between like the, oh, well, I don't want to do this, I'm anxious, and just being able to take risks and put yourself out there, but also knowing that it's okay to say no. And that leads to point 6: learn when to say no and yes yourself, so that you don't have to compromise your well-being. While still learning to navigate the feelings of others. So learning when to say no and learning when to say yes, for you, so that you don't have to compromise yourself. It's okay. Like, sometimes we think people are going to be like, oh my gosh, they're not going to like me, they're not going to want to do this, they're not going to. I've had to learn that because I tended to be a people pleaser. I want to help everybody. I want to make sure everyone's happy. And in that, like, I lost a lot of myself. Like, people can be very pushy sometimes, and that's okay, because I know I probably could be the same way. But I realized, like, I cannot be dependent on the idea that, okay, well, they understand where I'm coming from unless I tell them, right? So I take responsibility for how I feel, and it's okay. And like I said, the last and final one, like, I try my best to inject my life with empathy and compassion. Reminding myself that everyone's here trying to just live. Like, we're all here just living. We're all human. And just be compassionate and realize, like, we're all just trying to make it day to day. So those are my things that I really remind myself to, and how I could kind of, like, love life fearlessly. And I hope that it helps. And yeah. So we have some guests, and we're going to have some questions to ask them, and we're really excited that they're here. So Daria, Na, and Erlisha, it's your turn.
You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, so we're just going to start by asking you guys some questions that we came up with. Whoever feels compelled to answer them, feel free. You don't have to go in any particular order. It's like jump in reading. So the first question, what was your overall experience with the workshops? Did you like them? Did you dislike some of them? Like, what was your overall experience? Whoever wants to answer.
Well, I'll share. I tuned in for the first 2 workshops you all had on here, and I really enjoyed them, as well as your speakers. And for me, I think it was very inspirational. Just listening to you all share your stories and be so vulnerable and be willing to kind of put your fears out there for everyone to see. I've really commended you all, and it kind of made me look at myself and say, okay, what is it that I can evaluate, and what am I fearful of maybe that I haven't even tapped into yet. So for me, I thought they were very inspirational, and they kind of helped me look at some of my fears and really get in touch with what they are and how they could be holding me back in some type of way. I'm sorry, my dog is barking.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share?
Go. So for me, I tuned in for the second workshop. I missed the first one, and then I really enjoyed hearing everybody speak. I thought, because each person had different stories to tell, and how how each person was going through, life, loving themselves, or trying to get through different fears. And I think for most of it, I was like, yeah, I really get that, and I've been there, or um, like I can relate to what's going on. Sorry. So I can relate to what everybody's saying. So for me, I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed just this one too as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that I enjoyed both session 1 and 2, and for me, it's rewarding when you get to listen to people who have similar experience because you see that you're not alone. And I've had several aha moments while watching the series. So I think all 3 sessions were very rewarding.
Yay, that's so good to
Yeah,
hear.
that's so good to hear.
Okay, so I guess you guys kind of answered this question already. Did anything in particular in any of the sessions resonate with you, or did you connect with the most? Something like a specific example, or
The first session, there was a young man that you guys had as a guest speaker, and one of the things that he said was, all you need is faith the size of a mustard seed. And that's something that I've been struggling with because oftentimes I feel like my faith isn't strong enough because as Lindsay noted, this PhD experience, it's very, very taxing. And I often feel like I don't have enough faith to endure this. But I realized that I didn't need, an extreme amount of faith. That all I need is faith the size of a mustard seed. So that was like an awakening for me. Like
mm,
it gave me so much.
Look, I just chills.
like this too.
That's amazing.
I remember Lindsay talking about trying to be in a point in her life where she realized she has to love herself and not stress out about certain things. And for me, I try really, really, really hard not to worry about certain things. Some people think I'm always smiling because like I don't worry about stuff, but it's just that I try to focus on things that make me happy, or things that I don't things that I have no control over. I try not to think about too much. So I really resonated with what Lindsay said, and also when Courtney, she was also a guest speaker. She talked about having a gratitude jar, and I was like, that's so cool. I haven't gotten around to doing it, but it's important to, always remember. It's easy to forget, like when you're stressed out or when you're thinking too much, it's easy to forget what you have or what you've accumulated, whichever way it is. It's easy to forget, and then you lose yourself in, worrying about things you may not have control over. So I think that it's always good to, take a step back and, think about where you've come from, where you're at, and where you think you'll be, and just
Mhm.
take, take take it all in, and then be grateful for what you have. So I really like that.
This is just, I'm like so happy that there's at least like a handful of people like this is touching. Because when we started this, we were literally like, oh, just
Who's
give
gonna
this
watch this?
one person.
Yeah.
One. And even if that person was ourselves, like we didn't go into this expecting this. And I'm trying not to cry right now because I really feel like I'm happy that our vulnerability can really be of like use for you guys because this has been a process for us too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think too, and most of all, it's just like what Alicia said is like, you're not the only one going through it. So it's good to see other people that look like you, your age, with similar interests, going through the same stuff.
Mhm.
So it's good to share and it's good to, just try to connect with people and see how they deal with things and see, what's happening for them. So yeah.
So our next question, we've kind of gone through it with the first two, so I'm gonna combine like the third and fourth question. So, what did you learn throughout the workshops and in the workbook exercises, if you did the workbook exercises? And what were some of the challenges that came about while partaking in the Fearless Lovers workshop experience? I know for me, in the workbook, one of my favorite exercises, meditations, was the cliff meditation in the first workshop.
Mm.
And it was the exercise where you were supposed to imagine yourself on a cliff and you put all of your fears in a backpack and you're holding them on your back. And they're really heavy and you're supposed to take your fears and throw them over the cliff and then feel how light the backpack is after that. And I think while doing that exercise, I literally envisioned myself on that cliff and taking each sprout one by one, going through them, looking at them. And in a way, that helped me find myself more. And it really felt like a weight was lifted off because I envisioned myself in this situation. And every time a fear came crawling back, like I said earlier, I would just catch myself and say, nope, you already threw it off the cliff. Can't let it get to you now. It's gone. So I think going back to that exercise, it really helped me literally get rid of my fears. So that was one of my favorites from the workbook. And when it comes to challenges, I think just learning about myself throughout this whole thing has been really interesting. It's like sometimes I'm like, dang, I didn't know you had that in you. Or like you see the good and the bad, but in the end it's all good. So it's definitely been a learning experience for me and I'm just really grateful for this whole thing that we've created. And I'm grateful that it's helping other people too.
Oh, you asked what we learned, right?
Yes.
Seems like every time I want to talk, you start sparking, but okay. So what have I learned from this experience in your workshops? I know for me, my fear was never so much failure, but more along the lines of success, and what that would look like for me. Oftentimes I would wonder, like, okay, given this opportunity to do these things, would I be able to do it? And would I show forth and would I believe in myself, would everyone be able to see it as well? So I know for me, going through the workshops, listening to you all speak and share your stories, I learned that the fear was more of the success and not so much the failure for me personally. And then I also took a look at, like, what are my thoughts? And when I think about the success I want or desire, what are the things that I allow my mind or my thoughts to say to me? And a good friend on here is always telling me, there's power in my words and the things that I say. And I realized that oftentimes I had a lot of self-defeating thoughts and didn't really recognize them as such. It was more of a subconscious thing. But now I realize that, they're just as defeating as actions can be sometimes, and that I want to be able to now alter my thoughts and say, I can do all these things that are in my head that I think I can do, and I can just need to step out and that, like Alicia mentioned, that mustard seed of faith and just be able to do it, and realizing that there are no limitations, there are no boundaries. I can get out of my little box that I've placed myself in and understand that there's no limits when it comes to the things that I want to do. So I came to that realization by listening to you all and taking in the activities and the different things you all offered as a part of this workshop series.
Okay.
I think one of the things that I learned is that loving fearlessly is a process, and oftentimes I'm so down on myself um, for doubting my capabilities. But it's a process, and it's like, it's something that takes a lot of courage, and it develops over time. And I'm not there yet, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but it's the truth. So it's something, and I'm okay with that. But I know that now I know, it's something that I can work on and take the steps to improve.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead, Nah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I did not know about the workshops, but no, the exercises. That's what I mean. But I think if I try to do it, one problem for me or a challenge would be actually doing it because, like, I think I'm always caught up, doing other things or getting being I have a short attention span, so I'm always thinking of, oh, I need to do this or oh, I need to do that. So even though it might be commendable to say, oh, you have to love yourself and this is what you can do, or this is, how you can go through it. I think actually putting it into practice might be more difficult because, I can say I want to love myself or I want to, get rid of this fear or something, but to actually do it, I think it takes like more effort than some people might, imagine. So, and for me, I'm like, oh, I need to do this, or I'll do this later, or I'll figure out a time, and then I never really get around to doing it. So, I think a challenge maybe for other people would be to take the time to actually try and, love themselves or try and find ways to, maybe little steps to trying to love themselves or doing something that will ultimately help them love themselves, I think.
And that's so interesting that you say that because now that like I'm back in school and I am like on the schedule of I gotta read this many articles a day and I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this. I told myself, and it's hard. It really is a process, like Arlisha said, like, and Nas said, like, loving yourself. Hi, Jessica. Jessica's here too. She joined the conversation.
Yay.
It's really a process because you can get caught up. But I realized, like, and this is gonna sound kind of probably morbid, but I realized, like, none of that stuff is gonna be like that. Doesn't matter in a sense that. That's not keeping me alive. And in order to be alive, like I have to take care of myself. And like a really big part of the program is like there are people who have breakdowns. It is very taxing emotionally. Like I probably had some many ones in between. Like Na said, like it's we smile, or Alicia, we smile, but it's like it's literally like you have to keep yourself smiling to keep from crying sometimes. And I realized the way that I can actually have like full oomph and meaning behind that smile is taking the time for myself no matter what. Like I'm not going to compromise. I'm selfish in that way, and I do recognize like it is really taxing to kind of say, oh well, I'm going to take this time for myself, because you so want to be able to read that article, or finish that thought, or write that down. But I realize like I can't even produce if I'm not functioning properly. Like, and I realized that I was producing at a much higher level and more comfortable with myself. And I am more comfortable with myself now that I continue to take the time to do the work on me. Like, it seems like so crazy, like taking out 20 minutes of my day to just like read and reflect and meditate and pray. But I realize like once I do that, everything else moves so smoothly. I'm not tired. I'm not drained. Like, but don't get me wrong. There's times where I'll forget, because I'll literally wake up and be like, I gotta read this. But it's like practicing. It's like working out a muscle, really. Like that heart. You're working out your heart. Like you're working out learning how to love yourself. It is practice. It does take a day to day, because you can go right back to that place, and that's okay, because you recognize now where you are, and all it takes is the baby steps to like move forward. So Jessica, like we asked, like what did you like about the process so far, and like what were any challenges that you had throughout the experience, and what did you learn throughout the experience? So if you want to share anything.
Sure. The main thing that I want to say, piggybacking off of what you said and what the other person said, is leaving some time out for yourself. Because how can you live fearlessly or love fearlessly without loving yourself first, And that was one main thing that Alyssa always told me. She always said, you need to do stuff for you. And I'm like, but how can I do things for me? Like I want to go get my nails done, but I need to go do, or I need to pay for something else. Well, she's always like, you just do stuff for you. And being a mother, being a student, being a wife, and then a daughter, like it's a lot. I'm pulled every which way all the time. And I know there are a lot of other people in my shoes always wondering, well, how do I make time for myself? And I can't forget teacher, because that's an around-the-clock job. On the weekends, I'm planning, I'm doing things, grading. There's rarely time that I get to myself, but I realized, I finally, I don't know after how long, I took Alyssa's words for it, and I was like, well, I'm going to do things for myself. This way I can do things fearlessly, and so that I and I'm confident doing it. And it is taxing when you don't do it. As Lindsay said, but it's very important that whatever makes you happy, if you can do it, just do it, and don't push it off. But you have to do it right then and there. And I've started doing that, and it makes you much more happier. It makes you produce much better. Such as last night, I'm a master's student, and I had homework that was due, but I didn't do it yet because I was tired. So, I'll have to pay for getting those points off. But I'm like, I can't make myself do things when I can't even think. And if I'm getting to the point where I can't even think, well, I need to figure out what I'm doing wrong, because I'm not living fearlessly. It's like I'm living with a leash on myself. And, you have to break that leash. You have to be free. And it has a lot to do with prioritizing, making sure that you put what needs to be done first goes first. And I'm still working toward that. I know a lot through the workshops that you guys have filmed before. It's not easy at all. And last week you had the one lady on there that shared, she had, I think it was like a message jar or something like that, and then she had this big blackboard where she writes stuff on it. I keep all that stuff in my head, and maybe that's not the best place to keep it. I do have a journal, but I haven't written it in a long time. And I recommend, if you always have something to tell somebody, you need to get out your journal and write it in there, because even the journal doesn't reply back to you, but it helps you figure out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I recommend, and one thing that does help me. I just have to put into practice more. And living fearlessly, it's practice. It's living life. You practice, you fail. You can't be afraid to fail, because then you're not living fearlessly. And that's about it.
Yeah, that's definitely some great points, and I just want to go back to what Alicia was saying about how she kind of gets down on herself for not being where she wants to be, and I'm the same way. But a part of the journey is realizing you are exactly where you need to be in that moment. It's like what you're doing is exactly where you should be. There's no, well, maybe I could be doing this, or I need to do this better. It's like, this is where you should be. Where you're at is where you should be. I can't stress that enough. Just because that's how I feel too. It's like, okay, I have to tell myself every single day. And it's, when I say it's moment by moment, it's literally second by second. We have to choose to act and live and to just be present. Because I mean, one of my challenges is I quickly fall back into, I say, my old way of thinking of, let me just get this done, or let me just do this, and then I get irritated, I lash out at something, and it's like, okay, I have to consciously, every minute, every second, choose to love myself and to say, you know what, I'm going to take this time to breathe. So it's a hard journey. It's a long one. It's definitely worth it. But you can't be down on yourself, because it's a part. I guess it's a part of growing and learning and loving. So, or Alicia, because you feel that way, you're exactly where you need to be. That's all I have to say. And so our last question is, we just wanted to know. We're gonna combine the last two. Like, is this something that you guys like participated in before? Have you ever done anything like this before? And would you recommend it to anybody else? And then what are your main takeaway things? Like, if you had to recommend this to somebody, what things would you tell them about the workshop?
I'll go first. It is definitely not something that I've done before, and especially, I know Alyssa knows my mother, and your parents have a huge effect on your life. My mom is the type to always give a lot of herself and just keep giving herself, and she saves herself for last. That's how I learned how to live, and I was always giving myself the short end of the stick. And then when Alyssa was like, oh, well, you need to live fearlessly, she's always telling me, I'm like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But if I do that, then I might not be able to do this. So I'm not going to do that for myself, She's always like, no, you need to do it, or you need to go if you feel like if you feel like that's what, we're spiritual. So if that's what God's telling you to do, then go do it. And that's the main thing that I've taken away from this workshop, is making sure that you do things for yourself. So, and not being afraid to fail. Because you can't, if you're afraid to live, that's the problem, and that's what we're breaking here. That's I feel like that's one of the main points of this whole thing, is you cannot be afraid to live. Whether, I don't know, if you're afraid you're going to leave people behind, or you're afraid that you might end up losing yourself in the process or something. One of my favorite, I wouldn't call it a meme, but it's a picture of this person walking up steps, and then there's like the hand of like God holding them up for the missing step. And I'm like, that's perfect. It's kind of like stepping out on faith. Well, we do that every day, like Alyssa said. Every single day I do it. And as she said, I have to remind myself, what do I need so that I can be more successful, and so that I can produce more for other people. Otherwise, I'm not going to be productive at all if I don't do things for me. So I think definitely everybody should watch these workshops so that they learn how to do things for themselves and they learn how to live fearlessly. It's a skill that isn't taught, it's learned. And then,
Can I?
Uh,
Can I go?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I've never done this before, and I would also 100% recommend it because, sometimes you go through life and you're like thinking, you don't really, well, for me, sometimes I don't like, it's not a thing for me to think, about, life and the kind of things that go on in life. And so for me, it was really good to listen to everybody and, when they talked about the experiences, about loving themselves and what they've been through or how they try to love themselves, I was like, oh, that's me, or oh, that's something I can do. So for me, I've learned to love yourself. I think it's like the most important thing you can do to love yourself, and I've also learned that I think we are all strong people and we can get through whatever because each person who's talked through the workshop has experiences they're talking about that gives can give hope to others who may have gone through the same thing or are going through the same thing. And if there are people out there, like we've said throughout, that someone's going through the same thing, you're not alone and you can get through it. And I think we all have strength within us to be able to face challenges that come our way. So I would 100% recommend.
Yay.
Yes. Also, I really enjoyed the workshops, and it's not something I have done before. I think it's really neat, and it's good to see like people in my own age group that are sharing their stories because obviously you can relate a lot more to the people that have kind of like been where you are or going. So I thought that was a good twist on these, and it's definitely something that I would recommend for people to go back and listen to if they had the opportunity. I know for me, my takeaway was to realize that living fearlessly simply means that you don't have any limitations. And only the limitations well that you put on yourself. So it was eye-opening for me to kind of realize and understand for myself that, I can go as far as I allow myself to go. And by doing so and being able to do so, obviously, like you guys have touched on, you have to love yourself and invest in yourself and know that your time is worth it for yourself. I'm guilty of pouring into everyone else sometimes and neglecting myself. And I think it's important to just take that step back when you have that chance. It could be something as simple, like I know someone said, getting their nails done, and just saying, this is my time for me. This is my me time. And I'm going to enjoy it and do the things that I love to do and that make me happy so that I can be better able to be there for other people. So I think that was like my takeaway. Yeah, you don't have any limits unless you put them on yourself. So live fearlessly.
Yay.
I would definitely say, like, honestly, everything that you ladies have like spoken about has been we've been there, and it's really like humbling to hear you all like let us know that there have been things that you've taken away from the workshop because we were stepping out on faith, like just doing this. Like we said, we were just like just one person, even if it's ourselves. Like we said, just one person. Um, so.
Did you want to say something, Alicia? Sorry to cut you off, Lindsay.
It's okay. So I was
I saw she unmuted her thing. Did you want to say something or no?
No, I was just going to echo what everybody else said, that
Oh.
it's an experience that allows you to interact with folks who are going through similar things in life. And I've never done anything like this before, but I think I would encourage people to participate because all of the things that I've learned from the workshops, they relate to um, elements of faith and things that I kind of refer to on a day-to-day basis. But you guys have taken it a bit further. And I think learning to love yourself is an important aspect, because if you're not your biggest cheerleader, then you really can't expect anyone else to be. So,
Hmm.
Yes, I'm here for it all, guys. I'm just like,
For all of it.
uh, this has been like a learning experience. Like I said, like just hearing you guys say these things, it's like this has been a learning experience for us, and that's what we were hoping and praying for. Like we just want to be able to share and like let people know that you're not alone, that we're all in this trying to figure it out, and that you can figure it out, even if, like Alyssa said, if it's just you take a moment to breathe and just realize that you're here, like that's just enough, sometimes that's just enough. And yeah, did you guys want to add anything or some
I just
live?
want to thank everybody for tuning in, and thank you to each of you guys for sharing what you learned with us. I was watching, not to go off topic, but I was watching Super Soul Sunday today with Oprah, and one of the things that uh, the person that was on there was saying that helps them every day. At the end of the day, they do like just a check-in, and I do a check-in with, I'm a therapist, and I do a check-in with my clients every single time I see them, but just to check in with yourself at the end of the day. And the things to check in are, well, first of all, is to just set an intention at the beginning of the day or before you go to sleep at night. Is, okay, my intention for tomorrow or my intention for today is to be loving or is to be kind. So to first set the intention, and then you ask yourself at the end of the day during the check-in is, was I kind? What did I accomplish? Did I take time for myself? And so that's just something small that I was just like, oh yeah, I definitely need to add that to my living and loving life fearlessly. But um, like Lindsay said, this was something that took a lot of courage for us to just do. It was a very long process, but we enjoyed every minute of it. So we are finally glad that this workshop is complete, and we were able to share our experiences with you guys. And so we're very, very, very grateful. We thank God for this time with you guys and for this time to just share and learn and grow. So thank you.
May I
Thank
share one
you
more?
guys so much for
Yeah.
participating. Thank you.
I want to share. I just want to say, if anyone who comes across this four-part series, or comes across this video alone, just after you watch this, just make sure that you share it with, I don't know, anyone who you know is wearing, like I put it, multiple leashes against, around their neck, because we're all pulled every which way, and it's by so many different people. So, and it's definitely everything that has been learned through this whole series. Again, it's learned. You can't just go tell someone, well, go live fearlessly. What does that mean? And that's what you guys have definitely clarified for me. So share, share, share.
Why, do you have anything else to add?
I just
Before we wrap it
want
up.
to say thank you to everyone too. And like Alyssa said, this was a long process, and I feel like while we were planning for it, we didn't really realize how much it would take. And but as we were doing it, we were learning more and more about ourselves, which was the most beautiful part. And the even more beautiful part was that other people took away from it as well. And other people are beginning to find themselves. So it just feels really good that it came to life. It was once on paper, and now it's actually happening. So that's just a really good feeling. Everything seemed to happen so quickly. It's like
Yeah.
we're at our first workshop, it just seemed like yesterday, and now we're done. Um, but the good thing is that the workshops will always be there for everyone to see, and we can go back and look at them if we're having a hard time, and that's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. So I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Yay, and stay tuned for our next one.
Yeah, this is only the beginning. Like, this is only the beginning, and we hope this kind of gives you guys like a taste of what Powerwall has to offer. Like, definitely, like this is what we envision. Like, really being able to like build a community, surrounded by like love and motivation, and hoping that we can give people the tools to kind of grow every day. So like Lila said, the workshops are going to be there. I'm sure I'm going to be taking a peek at them. The workbook is going to be there. So even if you didn't get a chance to do it, like there's some amazing things that we set aside and put into the workbook, because honestly, those were the questions that we had to ask ourselves like as we were going along. So we encourage you guys to like, you know, you guys watching now or you guys watching this later on, when you find this out, when you finally do find the time to kind of get around to putting yourself first, like all of these ladies have mentioned, like that's the big thing, making sure that you take time for yourself. Like it's going to be so rewarding, and we hope that we've gotten a chance to kind of show you that. And like Jessica said, doesn't stop here. Share, share, share. We want you to share this with as many people as you can. Find it, if you find it in your heart, to just kind of share and put it out there. We've really created this with love, and with the intention, like Alyssa said, we set the intention to have this come from a place of love and hope that it could help somebody. So we really, really, like we said, appreciate everyone taking part, and don't forget where you can find us online. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Like us, add us. We're here. We're here.
Wow.
Yay! Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
On the line.
Thank you.